What's good, everybody? I'm Dave Miranda, and this is episode 6 of Just Give Me 5. I hope you amazing human beings are doing well during these times, and just a reminder, the world definitely needs more of this, If you guys caught episode 5, we had the homie Chuck on, and let me tell you, man, if you are in the Phoenix location, make sure you go to Trill. You will not be disappointed, yo. Enough said. Shout out to the homie Chuck. Make sure you guys check out episode 5. But today's guest is the godfather of radio and the party scene out here. Hands down, man. So much history this guy has, man. I mean, I was a teenager going to his nightclubs, for crying out loud. Wild times, yo, wild times. But hey, I survived, man. I'm still here, right? So, and those are memories that I would cherish for the rest of my life. In the words of Roxanne Shante, please believe it. So, yo, with no further ado, I present to you Benny Arce.
What's up, everybody? My name is Benny Arce, also known as The Godfather. All I'm saying is, just give me 5. Wow, that's a long time, and actually a long time back. And when I got inspired to become a DJ, it was when I was going to grade school at this building behind me. About 1974, 73, of course, back then we had CHR radio, AM, Chris, Crux, and everything like that. I was one of them little kids that used to listen to the radio station all the time and calling in for the prizes. So I always wanted to be a DJ on the radio growing up. And then back in about 7th grade, I met a mentor, the Record Hops, Stuart Sherman. And who knew within about 2 to 3 years from meeting him in 7th grade, that in high school, I was going to end up working for him, passing out the Record Hop cards, going to all the high schools and inviting people to the Record Hops. Record Hops are being held at St. Anthony's, Immaculate Heart, St. Mary's, different churches and gyms throughout the valley. And what Stuart did is brought together teens to dances in a secured environment with off-duty police, so it was secure for us. We didn't have much back then, and he was about the only DJ that I knew because there was no DJs other than radio. So when I learned and worked and helped him, I ended up becoming neutral, being able to go to all the different neighborhoods because I was going to all the high schools, and keep in mind I was in high school myself, and I was able to go south side, west side, north side, east side because I was passing out the Record Hop cards. And very few of us were able to go cross boundaries and be accepted. So at that point, I learned promotions. And then I went from there to doing my own events. Card Club days came in, eras changed, and I eventually started DJing, 15 and up, doing my own events, and then the big promotions, the Card Club parties, the street parties. And this was back in the early 80s. And although the party scene has changed to the 80s, 90s till today, I was lucky and fortunate to be able to do the building blocks of that party scene and eventually become that radio DJ that I aspired to be, that I wanted to be. So it took being on the streets, becoming a street DJ, a street promoter, the party promoters, and then becoming a radio DJ at 1060 KUKQ, Power 92, and then 103.9 Arizona's party station. Well, my introduction to the party scene is, well, back with the Record Hops, there wasn't really a party scene. Stuart was probably the pioneer, and Stuart Sherman, because at that point, the only things that we had was the churches and the youth groups. There really wasn't a party scene, and at that point, in that mid-70s transition to the 80s, the cruising lowrider movement was kicking in. So there really wasn't a party scene at that point. And you could also say that, people say that, Benny, you're the grandfather of the party scene. because at that point, when I was evolving, helping Stuart with the crowds to the parties and the record hops, I was learning my own and then eventually becoming my own DJ promoter. So what I did is, of course, I was cruising Central. I had a car club, New Dimensions Car Club. I was out there doing everything. I had a hopper and staying out late till the next morning, Friday night cruising till Saturday morning, Saturday night cruising till Sunday morning, and right on Central, South Side all the way down to South Mountain to downtown, and even up north. And people were gathering, I would say by the thousands. The cars were packed on Central, and honestly, learning as a promoter, perfect grounds to promote parties. So when I had that going on, I was out doing DJing, parties, and my friends, Ronnie Kolb, and a couple more. We were having fun learning. And one day I just said, you know what, car club, we're gonna start doing car club parties. And we're gonna make X amount of dollars. Because you know, you're gonna charge and you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. And the guy said, Benny, you're crazy. And I said, okay. I had the knowledge that I learned from Stuart, so put it to use. I was also doing stuff and mixing and DJing and learning how to DJ. So we promoted dances. That point started the party scene. I would say as the major party scene, the first real part of the party scene in the early 80s, about 79 through the 80s, because the first car show started in 79 at Firebird Lake. We were there, Stuart was there, I was right there. I was young, I think I was 16 or something like that. And that evolved with the car shows, the cruising, the lowrider movement, and then the party scene. So they all were hand in hand. But the thing about that is somebody had to connect them. I was fortunate enough to be a part of that scene and seeing where it was going, and you might say I manipulated some of it, but for the betterment. It created a social environment for us in our community to have events that weren't there for us before. And then later it evolved into the next scene. So I figured every 5 years you had to reinvent it, you had to change it, you have to mold it, and you had to reinvent for the next generation to come up. Because it's just like high school. Every 4 years is a transition. And if I put it the analogy, you have a cow, you raise the cow, you feed the cow, you milk the cow. And you gotta milk the cow, but you gotta feed the cow to keep milking it. Later on down the road, after that was established, other promoters go, hey, Benny's doing this, we want a part of it, and then they were upset. We can't do stuff because Benny's got the lockdown. Then they would take the cow, not feed it, but milk it crazily, and I'd have to still step in and fix what was getting broken. Hence the 90s. We went through the 80s, the crack epidemic, the craziness on the streets, the 90s, the party scene. Gangs were transitioning on the streets about 93, 94. And I thought to myself, I'm working with the city with some programs and people are getting shot, killed at house parties. What can we do to fix that, to change that, to stop the youngsters and friends of mine from getting killed? I created the Arizona Latin Association about 1995. And what I did with that is I got a lot of the neighborhood gangs, South Side, East Side, West Side, because there was boundaries now up again. And I had to bring them all together in one place, socialize. What happened is they realized we're South Side, we're West Side, we're East Side, we're North Side, but we're all the same. We love music, we love dancing. It's a social activity geared towards us. The walls and barriers started falling. At the point, my intent was to stop people from getting killed, change the scene, so we went from gangs to party crews. City of Phoenix had a big gang task force at the time, and they were doing a lot in our neighborhood that damaged things. They said their intent was to stop the gang violence, but it didn't. It incited more. And I'm not being mean with the city or the Phoenix police, but I'm just saying what I saw, what was happening. And I was going to meetings with the city. I got tired of going to a meeting to have a meeting to have a meeting to have a meeting to fix the problem. It wasn't working. So I went on my own. I created the Arizona Latin Association. What I did is I organized a lot of the so-called gangs turn them into a direction of party crews, because the choice was theirs. And I explained, we're going to unite, we're going to have events, we're going to have fun, and we're going to evolve. And I incorporated that, filled out papers, sent it to the IRS. 1976, I got my first 501c3, Arizona Latin Association Community Productions. And henceforth, united all the different neighborhoods. No more walls between South Side, West Side, East Side, and so forth, North Side. Although you had still your cliques, your neighborhoods, we weren't taking nothing away from them, but we were stopping the violence and everybody was socializing together. So that, in the mid-90s, stopped a lot of the violence, the shootings, the drive-bys. We still had some, not as much as we were having. And then I was having to deal with the politics of the city and the Phoenix PD, to where they were raiding, they were damaging what I was doing. And eventually I had to tell them, look, I got a nonprofit. This is what I'm doing, a social activity geared towards youth to get them off the streets, put them in a location, which was the Benny's nightclub, the Dome, the different parties. And so the youngsters and the party scene and the party crews, they didn't know it was a nonprofit. They didn't have to know. They thought our club, let's go party, let's have fun. Yes, come party, come have fun. You're safe, you're gonna go home after you're done, and you're not gonna die, and you're gonna live till next week, the next morning. No more killing, no more friends being lost, no more damage. But the city didn't like what I was doing, and they had their other alternatives, federal tax dollars or federal grants that they were looking at, and I wasn't being political. I just wanted to end the fighting and the killing in our neighborhood, our community. And I ended up opening a can of worms, but I do it again and again and again, because it saved lives. One of my greatest memories on radio was back in the 80s when I and my crew, the party promoters, Ronnie Kolb, Baco, Johnny Romo, rest in peace, myself, we won the Battle of the DJs. I think that was like 1983, 84. And I was already in broadcast school with a possible job at KUKQ. When we won the battle, this was another promoter. This was a rival promoter that was one of those promoters that Benny's doing everything and we can't do stuff. And he was a white guy, one of the few white guys that came in, saw that there was money. And I'm not saying he was bad. Yeah, he was a little. Rest in peace. He passed away, Raw Productions. He went ahead and did a battle of DJs, and he was smart. He said, oh, I'm going to put these groups and get Benny and their group, because they got the crowd, in on my event, and we'll get a lot of people in the party. And I kind of called him on that, and then he goes, you put my name on a flyer already. And I said, I know what you're doing. I said, but I'm going to do it and go through with it, because I'm confident enough in our skills and ourselves that we're going to win. We won that battle of the DJs. We did. And that escalated us to a higher level of promotions from another promoter. And it was smart. It was smart on his part, smart on my part, and for our crew. That got me on radio. I ended up at KUKQ, the rhythm of the city, working weekends, eventually overnights. And my best memory at that point, KQ was the best station. Although I worked at Power 92 and 103.9, Arizona's party station, KQ was the first urban station, the first real station that played the old school, which we call now old school. We played it brand new, Latin hip hop, everything. It was the beginning. AM 1060, yeah, AM radio. My program director allowed me to do my own thing at KQ. And you don't get that in radio. I was able to do the KUKQ party mix. What was that? Friday night at midnight, I'd come in with my crates of records and I'd spin live in the studio. We had turntables in there and the radio mixer, and I figured out how to mix live off of the radio equipment. So I learned Friday, Saturday night, and then he allowed me 8 p.m. to midnight on Sundays to do the show And that's my fondest memory. Being able to program my own show, first DJ in the history of Arizona to mix live on radio. Mixing live, not recorded, not on tape. We didn't have the electronics we have now. So we did tape. So some of those pre-recorded, we had to do splicing, edited, and that took hours. But I was in there going live. I brought in my police beacons, red and blue, the studio, and I was mixing live, taking live requests off the air. And in between those mixes and songs, I was doing slow jams, dedications, shout outs. So that led me down the road to becoming the godfather of love, doing the Love Zone at a later station in 1996. So KQ, fondest memory of radio, being allowed to do my own show my way without nobody telling me what to do or what not to do because they trusted me. In that trust, I gained a lot of respect for my boss. And that's awesome. You don't get that in radio, being allowed to do your thing and they trust you because programmers want to program and do it their way. And I was lucky. He trusted me enough that the show was great. That's my memory. "2020, really bad. You know, years before that, I was lucky enough to make a living out of being a DJ and a promoter, which honestly, there was not many people through the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s that were DJs or promoters that were able to make a living or make a career out of being a DJ. So there was only a few of us. After that, you could kind of say I kind of knocked down some walls, kicked in some doors, created a template for future DJs. I can't take the whole credit, but I laid down a solid foundation of what was happening at the end of the 70s through the 80s until what we see today's party scene, club scene. And 2020 damaged all that work from those decades because service industry, DJs now aren't working. The bar scenes, you can't go to the clubs, you can't dance, restrictions, have to wear masks. It took away all that work with the pandemic. The worst thing about 2020 is watching friends and people in the industry that I helped build and I was a part of all those years and I made decent money, not being able to make a living, pay their bills, take care of their families. That is terrible. 2020 is over, we're in 2021, nothing's changed, it's getting worse, and I just pray to God that things change fast because a lot of my friends are hurting. The joke on that is, years ago I think I heard somebody tell me, being a DJ now for you, Benny, it's a hobby. You have to get a real job. Although I've had real jobs in between being a DJ, I understand what that means. I totally understand what that means. If you don't have the skills to go get a job and have somebody else give you a paycheck to survive, it's really hard for you. So I understand it. Don't like it the way it was said because it's never been a hobby for me. It was life for me. It was creating and it was life and I'm not done yet. It's not over. But 2020 was a bitch, a real bitch, and hurts. And a lot of people are still hurting. Restaurants not making income, bars not being able to operate, friend DJs not being able to work and put food on the table. That's the worst thing about 2020 and the pandemic. You know, I'm not sure if I'm loved. I know I've been hated on, and I've had to deal with a lot of politics, and I agree. There is a section of the population that came and enjoyed and have great memories, and thank you guys. I can't take the credit for that. All I did was have an idea and a goal, and I implemented it. You guys were the ones that created it, that made it a reality. The memories I have are because of you. You guys allowed me to create something and put together the events and follow through, but you guys allowed it to grow and supported it And I have great memories because of you. Because of you. And I would do it again and again and again. As I said, I'm not dead and I'm not done yet. And I pray Rona doesn't get me. You never know. It's kind of strange that me as a radio DJ and through my life, I've always done shout outs and dedications. And at this point, I want to shout out Dave. I want to shout out you. You were part of the party scene. You were working, growing, being nurtured, and you put in work. You've traveled the world. You've made music. Man, you made a career from the party scene in this town. I wish I would have known you back then, because I would have loved to watch you as you grew. So shout outs to you, Dave. Yeah, and I'm going to interview you on my crack station. I got an online radio station since 2005. I left 103.9 when it became The Edge. That's another story. But I started crack radio, krckradio.com in 2005. It's now 2021. It's still cracking online. www.krckradio.com. Plus, I'm doing the Love Zone again live every Wednesday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Twitch, and on Sundays, 8 p.m. to midnight, 4 hours. Love songs, dedications, shout outs. You can even call in to my crack line. I'll give you the number. It's radio. 623-986-5102. Wednesday night, Sunday night, call in. It's live on Crack Radio and it's live on Twitch. Shout outs to you for supporting me all the years, and maybe some of you have a different take on what you guys seen as we grew up. We all have our own vision and version of what we went through. And if you had a great time, that's what it was all about. Keeping you safe, giving you memories, and moving forward. And then we look back on it, and then we enjoy those good memories. Although some of the stuff was really bad and there was politics, we got through it though. And rest in peace to the ones that didn't get through it. Good friends, old friends, friends that should be here now. But let's move forward and make sure that the social activities continue after this pandemic, because we need it. The only ones that are going to take care of ourselves is ourselves. And if you guys ever need anything, just find me. I'm willing to help. Shout out to you and Dave. Thank you.
And there you have it. Much love and respect to Benny Arce, man. The guy did so much for the scene out here. It is just incredible, yo. Definitely deserves his flowers. Salute to you, my friend. Make sure you guys are following him on social media, and also make sure you guys are checking out his radio show as well. Who knows? I may be a guest on this sometime in the future. Shout out to my brother Jimmy Nelson on camera, and make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to get those numbers to climb. We can only do it if you be so kind. And yo, man, I just hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. Hope you guys are enjoying the shows as they continue on. And till next time, stay tuned, stay blessed, stay healthy. Just give me 5, yo.